transcending down into the ground of things, is akin to sweeping the leaves that cover a path. There will always be more leaves, and the heart of the journey, the heart of our awakening, is to discover for ourselves that the leaves are not the ground, and that sweeping them aside will reveal a path, and finally, that to fully live, we must take the path and keep sweeping it. As we go deeper into the silence, I invite you to affirm the following. Grounded in truth, I step forward into ever greater good. Feel the presence. Feel how the presence enfolds you. The silence of this holy, sacred energy is the most beautiful and calming and inspiring flow of energy, and is available to everyone. I call it the divine infinite, the holy oneness. I call it God, by whatever name. This is the essence of beauty and the natural flow of life. I am so grateful to be a part of it, and that everyone here at Om, in this sanctuary, on this holy ground, is part of it. And everyone who is watching online, everyone who is still asleep around the other side of the world, I know that all of life is blessed, uplifted, and inspired by this incredible flow of energy, love, peace, and harmony. All the abundance, all the gifts that come and are available to each and every one. I give thanks for today's message by Reverend Natasha, whose insights are exquisite and ring true for so many of us. I give thanks for the technology that allows everyone beyond these walls to join in and be part of this sacred service. I give thanks for the music by our extraordinary musician. I am so grateful for everyone who participates here in service. This is a true community of love, and for this I am so grateful. I celebrate the absolute upflow of the gifts of God. Thank you, Reverend Natasha. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, everyone. Your names are etched into my heart and becomes more numerous. And so I say, what a beautiful, beautiful way to be. To be in the flow of love, gentleness, caring, and compassion, and inspiration and joy. I call it good. Very, very good. And so I declare Let us celebrate this day that God has made. And together we say, and so it is. My pleasure to bring back Joe Rathburn.
Good morning. Under the circumstances, certain aspects of this song may be considered wishful thinking, but it's still pertinent to every day. What a wonderful day we got here. Kind of day that just makes me smile. Sun is out and the sky is so clear. Mother Nature decked out in style. So go away, bad news. I don't need you. It ain't no day for blues. And I'm kicking my heels up. What a wonderful day we got here. It's just the kind of a day I choose. I gotta work today, but it's alright. Rather work than have nothing to do. And I'm working at keeping things light. I'm only letting the positive through. So if the boss gets mad, it doesn't matter. You know it ain't so bad. Heck, it's only money. I'm working at keeping things light. About the easiest job I've had. I'm sitting on cloud nine, singing a song. Haven't felt this good in so long. Plenty of sunshine, keeping me strong. And I ain't worried about nothing like something going wrong. No, 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 no. Because what a wonderful day we got here. Kind of day that just makes me smile. Sun is out and the sky is so clear. Mother Nature decked out in style. So go away, bad news. I don't need you. It ain't no day for blues. I'm kicking my heels up. What a wonderful day we got here. It's just the kind of a day I choose. Wonderful morning. I ain't got time for blues. Round about this evening, I'm putting on my dancing shoes. Wonderful morning, wonderful morning, wonderful morning. Ought to be a mighty fine afternoon too. So I think I'll go fishing and whistle me a happy tune. Yeah, I'm gonna whistle me a happy tune. Yeah, I'm gonna whistle me a happy tune. Everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Over to
Joe.
you, Natasha.
That was wonderful. And for all you younger folks out there who might not have recognized that, just check out Andy of Mayberry, RFD.
The song was called The Fishing Hole.
The Fish and Hole. Thank you, Joe.
To it that they only used in the pilot.
Okay. All right. Well, Joe, I think you've taken care of today. We can all really go home now. We've all gotten today's message. Oh, golly. So, what's wonderful about that music to me is that it reminds me of a time when I was younger, before I had learned about the things that can really get in the way, or where I thought about them, right? You're a kid, you wake up, the sun is shining, it's going to be a great day. Let's see, we're going to move this forward. So I'm going to say that it doesn't always happen this way, but Sylvia and I were completely on the same page, because the poem she shared with you, I will also share with you later on in my talk. And the image of that poem is part of what I want to share with you today, what that made me think about. So that's why you see an image of a path with leaves on it there. Because we're going to talk about what we do, the choices that we make, and seeing what our path is. And how sometimes the leaves of life, right, kind of get in the way of seeing our path. And those leaves can be any number of things. They can be our beliefs. They can be the circumstances of life. They can be things external to us that sometimes obscure what our path should be. But we have choice. We can use a broom and sweep those leaves and see where our path is. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Our theme this month is Embracing Unlimited Possibilities, and as you know, we kind of work through a theme over the course of the month. So this month, we've really been talking about how our philosophy offers us a new way of understanding and expressing ourselves, of understanding ourselves as something greater and with greater potential. Because when we recognize that we are, each and every one of us, expressions of God, that the divine is within us, we are not small. We are the potential of God expressing itself through us. And that isn't meant to be an expression of arrogance, right? We're not saying we are God, but we are saying that God is living and moving and having its being in, as, and through us. And that means we are, each and every one of us, connected to a greater potential, right? That is there for us to learn. That is our life path, our life journey, is to learn what that potential is, what those gifts are that we have been endowed with, because each and every one of us has a unique set of skills, of gifts, and of opportunities in life to express those. So in week one, we were talking about how to seize the day, right? Just to even have the awareness of claiming those potentials and possibilities. In week two, I think Reverend Jerry was talking about this, the good, bad, and the ugly. We remember that wonderful Italian movie, right? But looking at what we have experienced or defined as good, bad, and ugly in our lives, and how we can disentangle ourselves from those judgments. Because sometimes those judgments also become some of those leaves in the way of the path, right? We're so stuck in those ideas that we have about ourselves or what happened to us. Well, because this happened to me, I can't ever do this thing. Or because that happened, I can't follow that path any longer, right? We get stuck in that place. Last week, we talked about releasing our need to figure it out, to know everything, right? I can't move forward unless I know exactly how it's going to work out, right? Instead, right, our invitation is to have trust in that divine wisdom, in that inner guidance, and know that we can move forward and find our path as we go, rather than having it perfectly mapped out, right, from day one. And that's scary. there's risk, isn't there? There's risk that somehow it might not work out the way that we hope. And that's true. There is that risk. But there's something else. There's also the possibility that it might work out in the most amazing way that you hadn't yet even imagined, that hadn't yet even occurred to you was possible. But you won't find out until you start, and until and as you keep stepping forward on that path. So today, we're going to look at just really being grounded in this truth of our divinity and what that might make possible. Letting this knowledge and our vision for ourselves that emerges out of that, knowing that we are becoming, we are constantly in a process of becoming, and letting that inform our every thought, our every word, and our every action. Now, do any of you ever forget about who you really are? Me. Yeah, thank you, Joe. How many times a day are we talking about? And, full disclosure, just because you're a reverend doesn't mean you're not doing it all the time, too. And that's part of our spiritual practice, is to keep reminding ourselves, oh, right, wait. I don't have to be at the effect of everything happening around me. I can be grounded in the truth of who and what I am, and then make a choice about what I do next, what I think next, right? So, the topic of today's talk, what's next? Now, sometimes we utter that as a question, right? We're standing in the road, we wonder, well, I don't know what's going to happen next. I put an exclamation point on it today because what I want to share with you is what next, like, I can't wait. I can't wait for what's next. And to remind you that even if what's next seems a little uncomfortable or scary or uncertain, that is part of the blessing of being in spiritual community. You have a whole bunch of people to share that with, right? To get support from, to explore it with. That's what our practitioners are here for, what our ministers are here for, and also all of us as a community. So, I just want to invite you, when you're in that moment of, I don't know what to think about what's next, to think about it, that it might be okay to just claim it. What's next, right now? In the Bible, in Luke 2:49, I know we don't talk about the Bible very often in religious science, but it's okay. Ernest Holmes liked the Bible. There's a phrase, we are about our Creator's business. And all that means is that God is always present, exactly where we are. And that divine impulse, that divine wisdom is always not simply available to us, it absolutely is, but acting through us. And so part of our life project is to develop our awareness of it and our understanding of that and how we move forward with all. So that we can create both a life that works for ourselves, but also a life that contributes to others, a life and a world that works for everyone. That's part of our global vision. So, let's see. I like to focus on our principles in each talk, one of those at least. So today what I want to focus on is this idea again of that divine essence that we are grounded in. We say, we believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. How many of you grew up with the idea that heaven was like somewhere over there, far, far away, right? Far away from where we are. And it's kind of a radical idea to imagine that heaven is actually right here. It's right inside, just as the divine is. Because heaven isn't really a place, it's a state of mind. That's what our philosophy teaches, right? We're not going to heaven. We are in heaven to the degree that we recognize that we are in heaven. And the more that we recognize that we are in heaven, the more heaven appears around us, right? And sometimes that feels hard. Hard things happen, and it does not feel like we are in heaven at all. And if you find yourself in that place, and I absolutely honor it, that is not, how do I want to put this? There is nothing spiritually wrong with being unhappy about circumstances that you are in. It's simply recognizing that in the bigger picture, there is more to be experienced, and that we can manifest new experiences and better ones when we are connected to that divine essence within us. And again, it doesn't have to be something you're struggling with all by yourself, because as human beings, we really are meant to be in community and to share these experiences. And that's what makes that experience of living in heaven really work for us collectively. So, let's see. So we can choose as we move forward in this path, in this grounded state, right, to start releasing our experience of victimhood. I know I've experienced moments where I felt like somebody did something to me, right? Or a situation is incredibly unfair. And it's easy to get stuck in that place, right? You just feel like you are beleaguered by life. How do you let go about this? How do you let go of this? How do you visualize something better and different? And again, I would invite you to think about, to allow yourself to just start imagining the possibility, right? And to share that possibility. The more that you share it, the more affirming it becomes. The more that you choose to spend your time thinking about positive things, the easier it gets to be in that place. I've shared with you my happiness or drama question in the past, right? When your mind is starting to spin around negative circumstances or conditions or problems that you're having. And I grew up with a parent who believed that the best way to protect yourself is to think about all the worst things that could happen so that you could arm yourself, right? And, there's just one really big problem with that way of approaching life, is that the more you focus on that, the more of it shows up, the more of it you notice. And it took me a long time to realize that that kind of thinking was a choice, and that I could think about, do I want happiness or do I want drama? And that when I found myself thinking that way, I could ask that question and say, okay, I'd rather have happiness, so I'm going to think about something else. And that doesn't mean that you have to think about puppy dogs and flowers and you can't think about anything that's actually happening. But it is an invitation to imagine what you would really like to be experiencing in that moment, right? What might that be? Is it a loving conversation with someone in your family? Is it cooking your favorite meal? Is it being in your garden? Is it taking a trip to see the Northern Lights? Whatever it might be, something that makes you feel good in that moment. The more that you can focus on those things, the more you are in that place of grounding that allows you to bring something greater into your own personal experience and into the experience of others. That kind of thinking, that kind of imagining is the conduit for divine love wisdom to flow through you, right? And the more that we do that, the more we recognize our opportunities that are matched to our talents and strengths. Have you ever noticed that in certain modes or frames of mind, you might notice good things around you more easily? Like, oh gosh, there's $1 under that chair. Oh gosh, that person is smiling. Oh gosh. It can be all kinds of different things. But if you're in a bad mood, you're not going to notice any of it, right? But if you are choosing to be in a more receptive, positive frame of mind, you will notice other things. And you will also connect with people in different ways. And that has the power to really transform your life. So Ernest Holmes says this: I keep the windows of my soul open to new and fresh ways of knowing truth. I let go of the little to accept the more. Has anyone ever had the experience that when someone offers you a compliment, you just go, oh, no, not me. Oh, I didn't really do anything, right? Or someone offers you a gift and you just feel like, oh, that's too much. I can't accept that. Or praise for something that you've done. Oh, it was nothing. I didn't do anything. I have to admit that just this week I had an experience like that. Someone that I work with said something nice to me about something that I did, and I had that moment. Oh, it was nothing. And in that moment I realized, wait, stop. Say yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Because life is offering us amazing things all the time. But so often we are in a place of contraction, we somehow think we don't deserve it. But the truth is that everyone deserves every good thing because God is good. And those good things are appearing all the time. And it's not selfish to say yes. See, this is part of what I grew up with, right? You know, that would be rude, that would be arrogant, that would be selfish to simply say yes when good is offered to you. But I'm going to say the opposite today, that when we say yes to our good, we not only experience more, we are participating in the flow of good that kind of rises the good experience for everybody around us. And we can choose to do that. We have the power to choose to do that. As you might notice, as you continue in this teaching, we kind of notice an evolution often. We kind of often start with getting, right? Like as you start exploring the way this philosophy can work in your life, what would you like to manifest in your life? That's kind of how it starts, right? What would you like to get? What would you like to receive? And then you kind of move into having, right? And to being in a greater sense of the world, of the richness of the world around you, of the opportunities of the world around you. And then you move into being, right? Which is that you are that good. You can not only claim that good to experience in your life, you are that good. Right here and right now, already. Nobody needs to give it to you. You are already that good. That wholeness of God, that love that is God, that divine wisdom is already you. And I wish I could tell you that this is a linear experience, that you're going to go from one to the next, and that finally you get to being, and it's awesome, and you never have to think about any of this again. And unfortunately, it is our humanness that perhaps for some very enlightened beings are able to do that, but most of us just keep cycling through. And hopefully as we cycle through, we get to spend more time in the having and the being, but it's part of our nature to always be moving through this. So I want to share a brief story about how thinking about these things has really changed for me because of my experience in the hospital as a chaplain. And I have the opportunity on a daily basis to meet people who are experiencing really difficult situations with serious illness. And it's really fascinating, sometimes and inspiring to see what people do with this experience. And I just have I have awe for everybody who's going through this. And some days I meet people who just blow my mind. And I met a person like this past week, a young man with a very serious neurological disease that he has had his entire life, who is restricted to a wheelchair. And he's having, this is a visit. I work in a palliative care clinic, so this is a visit with a doctor, but also a social worker and myself. And the idea of the clinic, right, is that we are there to support the patient in whatever it is that they might need support for. But I'm struck over and over again by how patients really support me by inspiring me with their insight and their wisdom and their attitudes. And this young man was talking about how he was a leader of a Bible study group in his spiritual community, and how thrilled he was, what meaning it gave him. And this is a person who is very limited in that I think most of us would consider to have a very limited life in many respects. He's not mobile, right? He is not able to do lots of things that people think of as being sort of what life should be like. And yet what he really was able to focus on, right, because he was grounded in himself, in his own faith and in his belief, he was able to focus on what could he bring into the world that would make the world better for other people. And that was really very inspiring to me. And in sharing this story, I just want to be clear in saying this is not a judgment about people in similar circumstances who are not doing that, right? Because everybody's journey is their own journey, and there is no judgment for however we're navigating those journeys. But I share it simply to want to shine some light on the fact that we have choice. And this person was making a choice that was uplifting not only himself, but everybody around him. We all left floating on this visit, right? We hope he felt better, but we were all uplifted. So, as we're moving along in this journey of getting, having, being, Ernest Holmes encourages us to think bigger, right? He says, now we must open up the doors of our consciousness and expand and expand and expand, and no longer think in terms of the backyard lot, but in terms of the infinite nature of the universe. So, does anybody here claim the infinite universe as their backyard? Well, there you go. I want to invite you right now to claim the infinite universe as yours, right? You do not have to limit yourself to the backyard or the front yard. You can live in the infinite universe. It is. I agree. It is a joy to know that you can live in the infinite universe. And part of what's really exciting about that infinite universe is that things keep happening that you never imagined. This week, I had a moment where I realized, after a lifetime of always feeling like I had to work really hard for everything, right? And I was, that's a very American value, right? Work hard, rugged individualist, keep pressing through, keep grinding through. And this is in absolutely no way saying there's not value in working hard, but the truth is we don't always have to work hard, right? We can receive our good without having to, we don't have to earn it for God. We might need to work hard in a given set of circumstances, but God is not judging us by saying, well, you deserve this because you worked really hard, but you don't because you didn't work hard enough. That is not our understanding of how the divine works, of how spirit works, right? So for us, we can choose to say yes to our good, and we can choose to say, it's okay if it's easy. It's okay if it unfolds easily. You can say thank you, right? There's the yes, and then there's the thank you. It was easy. Okay. And so I had that moment of realizing that it was okay to do well, that I didn't have to keep feeling like I had to keep grinding all the time, right, as we often do. So E.B. White is one of my favorite writers. Some of you may know him from his children's books, Charlotte's Web, or Stuart Little, but he was an essayist also. And he says this great thing: I get up every morning determined to both change the world and have one hell of a good time. Sometimes this makes planning my day difficult. I love this. I love this idea that it can be fun, right? That what we do every day can be fun. Because I don't know about you, in our lives, sometimes we sort of think there's work over there, and then there's fun. But we don't get to have fun all the time. How about combining the two, right? So that's what E.B. White is suggesting. We've all probably heard that Zen proverb, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, and after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Right, which is just simply to say, yes, we all need to keep doing our work. Yeah, that's part of it. And again, as we do our work, it's a lot easier. There's a lot more yes and thank you when we do it from the standpoint of being grounded in the truth of who and what we are. Expressions of God, here to live a bigger, better life, to create a world that works for everyone. It's really about being in alignment with that. So we can profess all that we want to profess, right? We can talk about these words here. We can say, yes, I believe in them, but are our actions in alignment with them? Because that's really where the difference happens, right? This is not simply a teaching of words, it's a teaching of action. Ernest Holmes allegedly said, right, treat and move your feet. We know that's a common phrase. I don't think anybody's been able to quite find the citation, but it's really fundamental. You must change your thinking and then choose the actions that are in alignment with that thinking. How we act is how we are. There is the truth in that. So just want to share a brief story. We'll come to the close and we're going to do a little exercise. A story about a woman who had a lifelong dream of doing international health work, but she had a family, she had 4 kids, she couldn't travel to Africa to pursue this vision. But once her kids grew up and moved out, she decided that she would do this. Her name was Carol Parker. So she went to Tanzania and she started working with children who'd been orphaned by HIV/AIDS. And this was before medications and treatments were available. So there was a long period where there were a number of orphans who were suffering because their parents had died of this illness. So in 2004, she went for a month to volunteer with an organization. And she had such a profound experience, she decided that she had to come back and continue this work. So she returned and created a project called the Pamoja Project in Tanzania. And eventually, over time, as treatments became available, this organization was not only working with orphans, but with families who are now living with HIV/AIDS and working with them in a variety of ways: job training programs, microfinancing programs, building health clinics, and other kinds of resources. No, this is in Africa. And as she did this work, her friends, her family, her community became involved, and it became a very well-established program. And all of this is to say, we don't all have to go to Africa and create ministries that take care of people, but everybody has a choice about something that they can do, whether it's like the young man that I mentioned earlier who had his Bible study group, or going to another country and serving a very under-resourced population. We all have those opportunities, both to serve others and to serve ourselves, to serve the thing that wants to grow in us. That word for her project, Pamoja, in Swahili means together. And so I just want to offer that idea because, again, together we are a community and we can all be supporting ourselves and each other in this journey. So I mentioned the Mark Nepo poem, and I want to just invite you to kind of go into a very brief reflection. I'm going to read that poem again, which is called Being Here, because I want to invite you to think about if you have a someday list of things that you hope to do, right? Someday. Someone recently said to me, it's time for you to move some of the things on your someday list to your to-do list, which I had to say, oh, okay. this is true. So I'm going to read the poem, and I want to invite you, as you reflect on it, to think about whether there's anything on your list that might stretch you into a bigger and better expression of yourself that you might think about moving from your someday list to your to-do list. So here's the poem again. Being here, transcending down into the ground of things, is akin to sweeping the leaves that cover a path. There will always be more leaves, and the heart of the journey, the heart of our awakening, is to discover for ourselves that the leaves are not the ground, and that sweeping them aside will reveal a path, and finally, that to fully live, we must take the path and keep sweeping it. So just turn within for a few moments and think about whether there's something on that list, something that's really part of your path. You can sweep the leaves away. And think about how you might take that thing and step forward into it. All right, I'm going to invite you to return. I think I'd hoped for a few more moments, but you can take that with you and keep reflecting on it. I know that we've run a little long today, so I just want to kind of bring all of this to a close in inviting you, as you move forward into your day and into this week, that just take this sense of being spirit-centered, being in spirit, into love-motivated doing, right? That divine identity within each of us is inspiring us to be our own unique expression. So ask that question, what is mine to do? And see what might happen next. Will Rogers famously said, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. So it's time to sweep off the leaves and step forward onto your path. So I'll just repeat our affirmation with me. Today, grounded in truth, I step forward into greater good.